You've decided you want to buy your own deck, but you're not quite sure how to go about doing it. Today, I'm going to give you some of my personal tips on what to look for and what to do when you are buying your own tarot deck. Welcome back to Tarot Tuesday. I'm Amy the Medium, and today I really wanted to give you just some of my own personal tips that I have on what you should do when you're looking to buy your own tarot deck. As I'm sure you know, there are many decks available, and when you go to a store to buy a deck, it can be a bit overwhelming, especially if you don't know upfront what you're looking for. So first thing is deciding why you're even shopping in the first place. Do you just want to get a new deck and you don't really care what you're looking for? Or are you looking to buy a deck for a specific reason? If you know this going in, it's really going to make it a lot easier for you to decide what deck you want. You'll also want to decide where you want to go to buy your deck. What's really interesting is the tarot itself is becoming kind of mainstream, and so sometimes you can find decks in stores that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Places like Urban Outfitters, Anthropologie, places like that. You can also find them at bookstores as well as metaphysical stores. And of course, there's always online shopping as well. I know there's a lot of things that we can buy online sight unseen, but I feel that a tarot deck is not one of those. So it's up to you how you want to buy your deck, what avenue, what venue you want to go to. I would say one more step before you decide to actually go to the store is do your research. There are some resources available online where there are websites that have created databases of different tarot decks. And so that's a really good place to start if you want to get an idea of what's out there, an idea of what you're looking for. My personal recommendation is you should go into a store, preferably one that has multiple decks available, and you should actually look at each of the decks before you choose what to buy. You'll also want to make sure that the store you're in has sample decks available that you can open. Not every store does this, but if it is a good store that is used to selling decks, they should have sample decks available. It's really hard to buy a deck when all you can see is that picture on the box. It's much easier if you can open the box and look through the deck itself, as well as the weight of the card, the size of the card, what kind of cardstock it's on, does it have any foiling on the edges? What is the total overall look and feel of the deck, as well as how does it sit in your hand? Are you able to shuffle it? Are you able to cut it? Is it easy to work with? Additionally, if you're in a store that has the space available, I always recommend shuffling the deck and laying out a simple Celtic cross pattern just to see how the cards fall. What do they look like when they're in a spread? It's not like you're actually giving yourself a reading, but you are doing sort of a mini read just to see, do the cards work together cohesively as you're shuffling through them. Now that said, sample decks are available to everyone to use, so the energy within the sample deck is not going to be necessarily pure or pristine because there's a lot of people who have touched them and they've probably been sitting on that shelf for a long time. So you'll want to take it with a grain of salt a little bit. If it doesn't lay out in a way that you're like, wow, this sounds like a great future for me, that's fine. All you're really looking for in that spread is, does it tell a story? Is there something cohesive within it? Can you work with the imagery that's there, understanding that this isn't your final deck, this is just that sample deck that you're initially working with. I should also mention, for metaphysical stores that do have sample decks available, they may not have sample decks for every deck that is there, but there's no harm in asking somebody who works there whether or not you can open up one of the decks that you want to see, that you're considering purchasing. Many times they will be willing to do that. Additionally, you may find at times that there is a sample deck that you really like, but you can't find the deck itself on the shelves. Sometimes they're just out of inventory, so you can ask them if they can order a deck for you. But sometimes that sample deck may be the very last of its kind. It may be something that's out of print or that they don't intend to carry anymore. Again, no harm in asking them, hey, can I purchase this sample deck from you? They can check their inventory to know whether that sample deck will be for sale or not. But these are things that you should always consider, especially if you find something you really like. You don't want to just walk away from it because there's no guarantee that you're really going to find it again. The last thing to consider, of course, is price. You always want to work within your budget, and there are decks that range from just a few dollars to maybe $50, $100, depending on what that deck is. So to kind of sum things up, You want to know what you're looking for, you want to know where you're going, and once you're there, you really want to be able to look at that deck. You want to make sure that you can open or see a sample deck. You want to make sure that the price is within your range. And then the last thing is, when you get home, you want to start working with that deck right away. I always recommend, if you buy a new deck, when you take it home or take it to your office, wherever it is you're going to do your readings, I always recommend that you open it up right away. You shuffle it for a good 5 to 10 minutes just to really infuse the intention with the deck that, hey, this is something that I'm going to work with. It's part of my arsenal now. And then after that, I recommend laying out several sample spreads. Again, just like you did in the store, you're going to do it at home with that deck. You're going to lay out several sample spreads just to see how this pure, clean, never been used before deck works with you and how you work with it and what works for you and what doesn't. So I hope that's been a helpful little guide on what to look for when you are shopping for your own tarot decks. If you're in the market for a tarot deck or you've just bought your own, in the comments, please let me know what decks you have or what your favorite deck is that you've just bought. And I look forward to seeing you guys in future videos. Take care and have a great Tuesday.